she snapped. "Quit acting like we're husband and wife. You don't get to dictate where I go or who I'm with." Her friends erupted in laughter. I just grinned and kept my mouth shut. But when she returned from her weekend getaway, her key didn't work, and the neighbor explained exactly why. "My girlfriend, Lauren, and I have a core disagreement about the nature of our relationship. To me, if you're living in someone's home, eating their groceries, and using their internet, you're in a partnership. Lauren, however, sees herself as a radiant star, with me as a tiny, insignificant moon orbiting her. We've been together for 2 years, and for the past 6 months, she's been living in my house. My name's on the deed, the utility bills, and the little sign by the door that says The Thompsons, which she bought without consulting me. A purchase that now feels overly hopeful. I'm a laid-back guy. I enjoy my simple life. I work remotely as a freelance illustrator, have a few close buddies, and my idea of an exciting Friday night is trying a new flavor of craft beer. Lauren's the opposite. Her life is a stage, and her audience is her trio of best friends, whom I secretly call the Sirens. Their names are Kaylee, Madison, and, well, let's call the third one Merlot. The trouble started last weekend. I was preparing dinner when Lauren breezed into the kitchen, phone glued to her ear, already dressed to head out. She was in the middle of a loud conversation with the Sirens. "Absolutely, I'm totally in," she said into the phone. "A weekend trip is just what I need. No, he's not coming. Don't be absurd." She hung up, flashing a wide smile. "Great news. The girls and I are off to the coast for the weekend. We leave tomorrow." This was news to me. "Cool," I said, stirring the chili. "Sounds like a blast. Which beach are you heading to?" It was a basic, practical question, the kind any reasonable person in a relationship might ask. But Lauren looked at me like I'd asked her to solve a calculus problem in Latin. She let out a sharp, mocking laugh and turned to Kaylee, who just walked in. "Can you believe this guy?" she said, rolling her eyes. "He wants to know where I'm going." Kaylee smirked, eyeing me like I was a piece of outdated decor. Lauren spun back to me, hands on her hips, and delivered a line that would resonate for days. "Quit acting like we're husband and wife. You don't get to dictate where I go or who I'm with." The Sirens, now all gathered in my kitchen, burst into laughter. They found it hysterically funny. They thought it was comedy gold that a man, in his own home, was being told he had no right to ask a simple question about his live-in girlfriend's plans. I stood there, clutching a ladle with chili dripping onto the tiles, and didn't lose my temper. I didn't argue. A strange, peaceful calm settled over me. The part of my brain still trying to salvage this relationship grabbed a tiny suitcase, tipped an imaginary hat, and quietly exited. I looked at her smug, triumphant expression and gave her a wide, empty grin. "You're absolutely right," I said, my tone dripping with cheerful compliance. "My bad." They laughed again, thinking I'd caved. Lauren gave me a patronizing pat on the shoulder, and then they all swept out of the house for some pre-trip happy hour. I stood in the kitchen, the silence broken only by the simmering chili. "All right," I muttered to myself, a far more entertaining plan taking shape. "Not married, no say." Noted. The weekend was about to get interesting. Just not for her. Update 1: the second Lauren's car, likely stuffed with sequins and a crate of Chardonnay, vanished down the street on Friday afternoon. I got to work. My first move wasn't packing or tidying. It was a tactical operation. I headed next door to Mrs. Larson's house. Mrs. Larson is an 82-year-old widow with a warm smile, an award-winning hydrangea garden, and a gossip network that could rival a spy agency. Nothing happens on our block without her knowledge. I brought her a slice of her favorite blueberry pie and sat with her on her patio. "Mrs. Larson," I said after we chatted about the weather and the audacity of the local raccoons, "I've got a bit of a situation and I could use your help. It involves a little performance." Her eyes sparkled. She loves a good plot twist almost as much as her flowers. I laid out the story, repeating Lauren's exact words. "Quit acting like we're husband and wife." I didn't need to exaggerate. The raw truth was incriminating enough. By the time I was done, Mrs. Larson was patting my arm, her face alight with indignation. "That brazen little minx," she said. "Don't worry, Jake. I've got this. What's my role?" I gave her a straightforward script. When Lauren returned and found herself locked out, Mrs. Larson was to act puzzled and drop a few key details. She embraced the task with the enthusiasm of a veteran theater star preparing for a sold-out show. With my ally in place, I returned home to launch Operation Single Guy Sanctuary. For 6 months, My house had been overrun with neutral-toned cushions, useless decorative trays, and abstract art that looked like a toddler's finger painting. It was time to take back my space. I didn't just pack Lauren's stuff. I organized it with flair. I grabbed boxes and a thick marker. The first was labeled casual outfits. The second, fancy attire for events I wasn't invited to. The third, my masterpiece, was glittery gowns that shed sparkles on everything I own. Her 40 pairs of nearly identical stilettos went into a box called Orthopedic Disaster. Her pile of cosmetics and serums filled boxes marked face creams and mystery lotions. By Saturday morning, every trace of her was packed. I hired a couple of movers from an app, and we hauled it all to a 10 by 15 storage unit. I paid for 1 month, a generous, non-marital gesture, I figured. With the house cleared, the real fun began. I went on a shopping spree. I rolled up the bland gray rug and replaced it with one designed like a basketball court. I sold her sterile cream sofa online and bought a massive brown leather recliner couch with a dozen cup holders. Her boring glass coffee table was swapped for a retro arcade game I found online. It didn't function, but it glowed, and that was enough. The bedroom got a makeover too. I took down the odd woven wall hanging above the bed and put up a framed poster of a wolf howling at the moon. Felt perfect. My final and most inspired move came Saturday afternoon. I visited the local animal shelter, just to browse. An hour later, I came home with a 130-pound Newfoundland puppy named Max. Max was a furry, slobbering, lovable chaos machine. He immediately claimed the new couch and fell asleep, snoring like a chainsaw. The house was no longer a showroom for a dull, neutral life. It was a stronghold of unapologetic singlehood. I spent the rest of the weekend tossing a ball with Max, sipping beer straight from the can, and updating all my passwords. The Wi-Fi network became buy your own internet, with the password not wed haha. On Sunday evening, I lounged on my cup-holder-heavy couch with Max's massive head on my lap, waiting. The storm was approaching, and for the first time in ages, I felt ready. Update 2 Sunday night, around 8:30 p.m., my video doorbell pinged my phone. There was Lauren, sun-kissed from her coastal escape, strolling up to the door, humming. The show began almost instantly. She tried her key. Fit but wouldn't turn. The new lock I'd installed that morning was doing its job. She jiggled it, her face showing mild irritation. She tried again, then huffed and started pounding on the door. Max lifted his head, let out a low, rumbling bark, and went back to sleep. Lauren started calling my phone. I watched it buzz on the arcade game, took a sip of my beer, and hit ignore. She called again. Ignored. This went on for 6 rounds. The knocking grew louder. Jake, open the door. What's wrong with you? My key's not working. I stayed silent. This was all part of the performance. After another few minutes of frantic banging, she seemed to give up. The camera showed her pacing the porch, tugging at her hair. Then, right on schedule, a light flicked on next door. Mrs. Larson appeared in her robe, holding a gardening trowel. Showtime. Oh, Lauren, is that you? Mrs. Larson called, her voice a mix of surprise and worry. Everything all right? Mrs. Larson, thank goodness, Lauren said, hurrying to the edge of the porch. I can't get in. My key's broken or something. Is Jake home? The lights are on. Oh, Jake's home, Mrs. Larson said, nodding knowingly. He's had a fantastic weekend. A real overhaul. Overhaul? What do you mean? Lauren asked, confused. Well, he shared the good news, Mrs. Larson said, leaning in as if sharing a secret. He said you two aren't married, and he doesn't get a say in your life. So he decided to celebrate his freedom. Redecorated the whole place. It's a man's house now, very bold. Lauren's jaw dropped. What? And the best part, Mrs. Larson continued, barely hiding her delight, he adopted a dog. A huge, wonderful boy named Max said he wanted a companion who's loyal and doesn't argue. Isn't that charming? Lauren's face was a portrait of shock and dismay. She peered through my living room window, her nose pressed to the glass. Her eyes widened as she took in the basketball court rug, the arcade game, and Max, sprawled across the new couch. She let out a noise that was half scream, half wail. She pulled out her phone and started texting me furiously. My phone buzzed with a barrage of enraged, all-caps messages. I decided to reply with one calm text. You said to stop acting like we're married. You said I don't get a say. I agree. This is my house and you don't get a say in how I live. Your stuff is safe at 456 Storage Lane. Unit 17. Code is 5678. You've got 1 month. Best of luck. Then I blocked her number. The camera showed her reading the text, looking at her phone, then the window, then back at her phone. She let out a scream of pure fury and hurled her phone onto my lawn. It was a glorious meltdown. She ranted for another 10 minutes before Kaylee, one of the sirens, arrived to pick her up. The next day, the predictable social media storm began. Vague posts about betrayal and men who can't handle empowered women. It was laughably generic. But I had one final move. Final update: the social media drama was expected but dull. Lauren and the sirens posted stories with moody music, preaching about self-worth and cutting out toxic people. They tried to cast me as the bad guy, but it was all so formulaic it was almost amusing. I let them rant for 2 days. Then I decided to set the record straight. I didn't engage directly. Instead, I posted on my private social media, visible only to mutual friends. It was a photo album. The first image showed my living room a month ago. The dull cream sofa, the useless trays, the vibe of a generic hotel lobby. Caption: before. The second was my living room now. The leather recliner couch, the basketball court rug, the glowing arcade game, and Max, looking regal. Caption: after. The final photo was a selfie of me and Max on the couch, both grinning. Caption: embraced my new relationship status. Was told I'm not married and have no say, so I'm living free. Hashtag single life, hashtag dog bestie, hashtag no say no stay. The post was a game changer. The mix of petty humor and Max's undeniable charm was a hit. My friends found it hilarious, and the story, with proper context, spread fast. People who'd initially sympathized with Lauren now saw the full picture. The narrative shifted from crazy boyfriend evicts girlfriend to girlfriend says relationship is meaningless, is surprised when he agrees. Lauren's friends went quiet. It's tough to play the victim when the villain is sharing cute dog photos. Lauren crashed with Kaylee, but that lasted barely a week. I heard Kaylee got fed up with Lauren's whining and refusal to chip in for rent. She ended up moving back with her parents 2 hours away. She tried to come after me legally. I got a letter from her lawyer demanding access to the house for her wrongfully held belongings and compensation for displacement. My lawyer responded with copies of my mortgage, the lease, in my name only, and a polite question about whether Lauren would repay me for 6 months of free rent, utilities, and groceries as a non-married guest. Her lawyer never replied. The best part came a month ago at the dog park. Max was chasing a frisbee, and I was chatting with another dog owner. A woman approached nervously. It was Merlot, the third siren. She looked uneasy. "Hey Jake," she said. "I just wanted to apologize. That night at your place we were out of line." I shrugged. Lauren said what she said. I just took her seriously. "Yeah," she said, shaking her head. "She's intense. She called me last week, complaining her parents are making her get a job. She blamed you for ruining her life." She glanced at Max, who was attempting to carry 2 frisbees in his mouth. "Honestly, you seem to be doing great." And she was right. I'm doing great. The house is no longer a sterile cage. It's my home. The arcade game still doesn't work, but it's a great conversation starter. Max is the best roommate I've ever had. Loyal, hilarious, and he never critiques my cooking. I learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes the best comeback isn't a complex plot. It's just listening to what people say and taking them at their word. Lauren told me who she was and what our relationship meant to her. I just agreed. She said I had no say in her life. And now, in her life, I truly don't. In mine, she doesn't either. And that, plus a giant, drooling dog, is a damn good ending.